really want to talk about the transformation of our world to 2050. And when I think of myself back maybe 40 years ago when I was in your spot, I would have loved someone to try to give me some insight into what's happening, not in the next year, or the next 5 years, but the next 10 years, 25 years. Because that's really what we're talking about here. The next 25 years of your lives here. And I'm even going to touch a little bit on what's even going to go beyond that, because pretty much everybody in this hall today can expect to see the end of the century, 2100, easily given the kind of medical advances and all the kind of things we're learning here, that you pretty much all will see the end of this century. And so I'm going to do a little speculation at the very end of where we might end up there. Now, I'm just coming in fresh from San Francisco, and I just wanted to start by just kind of start where the news is right now. And this is, in fact, that we are all really at a moment here that will be remembered for a long time, I think. We are really opening up a new era of human progress, I would say, but in general, this step change we've just taken into what's essentially an age of intelligent machines. And it is you've heard a lot about this in media, but I would just basically say, sanction at some level, that we are actually in an amazing moment in history. You could actually say that humans, for all of our lives, all of history, all of civilization's history, we had basically developed with our own muscle power, our own physical power, and maybe the power of animals. And then in the Industrial Revolution, or the early Enlightenment, we basically figured out how to create mechanical machines that amplified our physical powers. But up until now, anything to do with intelligence had to do with human brains. And we've just crossed is a similar huge threshold into essentially now we've figured out how to get machines that can act intelligently. And this is the beginning of a step change in our capabilities. This is the beginning of a real opening up an era of AI that we will remember, we'll never go back from. And once we're crossing, just like we crossed that physical threshold in the machines and powered the Industrial Revolution, we're crossing essentially intelligent machines into another kind of era of what human beings can do. So that is a very, very big deal. Now, I did want to just point out, why did it happen now? This idea of generative AI, which you've been hearing about, which you kind of see it in the popular form of ChatGPT. The reason that this opened up now was essentially similar to what happened in the internet, basically in the early 90s, of which he said I was very much there at the very beginning there. But generative AI is essentially opening up AI to everyone. Governments and some big companies have been wrestling with AI and developing it in cruder forms for the last couple decades. But it is this breakthrough that allows any human to basically, just through language, to basically talk to the computers and talk to the data and that talk to essentially the artificial intelligence and get back in our language the answers that you want, which is opening this up to everyone. Very similar to what happened with the internet. The military had used the internet, or academia had used the internet before the early 90s, but it was the coming of the World Wide Web and the opening up of the internet that exploded what we know now as the Great Digital Revolution, was because it put it in everyone's hands. That's what just happened this year in the last 6 months, really. And that's what's just beginning to this explosion. That's generative AI. Now,